Hey folks, I'm going to give you 10 ideas for how you can improve your ultra running experience through applying the principles of secular Buddhism. Gotta give a little shout out to my buddy Noah Rasheda. He's given me, he has a podcast called Secular Buddhism and a bunch of books and a website and very helpful stuff. It's not religious, has nothing to do with religion, it's just perspectives. And it's helpful for us, especially in the West, to understand some of these principles that are kind of well known in the eastern side of the globe. But anyway, here's top 10 things that can help you for your ultra running, just applying the principles of secular Buddhism. Enjoy. So, number one tip for improving your ultra running through the lens of secular Buddhism is be in the now, be in the moment, live that present moment. There's a lot of talk about mindfulness and just embracing what is right now, this moment. But I'll just briefly say in ultra running, you know that you're doing 50 mile, 100K, 100 mile. You can't skip ahead to mile 70. You can't be forward tripping in your head. You have to embrace this moment, this step right here, right now. You have to do it. You have to be in the present. And great lesson for life, but especially for ultra running. And the secular Buddhism concept takes it a couple steps further and just says, this is the present. This is the only moment that will be just like this ever. And it's all of the causes and conditions that made you you and led up to you in this present moment, in this present situation. Just a million details that led to this moment, and this is what you have, the present. Tomorrow will never come, yesterday is gone. You gotta just, carpe diem, live for the moment. It's a great principle. Use it in my life a lot, have to remind myself. And secular Buddhism takes it further and further out in scope to even think about 7, 10, 20 generations ago, a guy looked up at made eye contact with a woman, and now you're here because of that. and all the things that led up to right now in the present. It's a great way to live. It's really the only thing we can work with is the present, and sure helps my ultra running, especially when I'm bonking, falling apart, mile 70. I just can't think about getting to the next aid station. I just need to think about right now, take this one step. And you can even embrace it even when it's getting kind of sucky and you're falling apart or your stomach hurts. You can still live in that moment and feel that emotion and experience it. There you go. Principle number 2 is mindfulness. You probably heard about meditation, but this is different from meditation, or maybe from your idea of meditation. This is not sitting in a cave and just thinking of nothing for 2 hours or focusing on a candle or something. It is just being present. It's kind of getting rid of the distractions in your mind and being present, being mindful of what's in front of you, being curious. And it has a lot to do with principle number 1 of kind of carpe diem, seize the moment, be in the present. But mindfulness is just a way of calming down your mind, stop worrying about the past and the future and all of the things that your brain's telling you. Your brain has a lot of thoughts, and that's its job, is to think of things, but you don't have to believe all those thoughts, and you don't have to absorb them all, internalize them. You can control what you're thinking about, and you can focus. So if you're walking, you focus on walking, and you look for the special opportunities that are in front of you. If you're sitting in a chair, you're sitting in a chair, and that's what you're thinking about. Just being present, be in the moment. It's a way of quieting your mind and focusing on the present. True blessing, especially in ultra running. You're out there for a long time. You got a long time to think, a long time to be distracted, a long time to be frustrated or have joy. But don't worry about it. Happy, sad, tired, pukey, whatever. Just be mindful of where you are at that moment, and it will make your ultra running experience even better. Tip number 3 for improving your ultra running through the principles of secular Buddhism is deal with reality. Life it's real. Most of our suffering comes from wishing reality was something other than it is. And most of our contentment or freedom comes from accepting reality as it is. Just like a game of Tetris, the shapes show up and we can't worry about what we thought it might be or why we got this shape. We have a limited amount of time to twist that shape and put it in place best we can for our lives, and that's dealing with reality. It really doesn't make any sense to deal with how we perceive things and our thoughts and emotions, our reactions to those things. It's more important to deal with the actual real situation. For example, if someone smashes into you with a grocery cart in the back, that's really frustrating, right? You might get really mad. That's a natural reaction. But think about what really happened. You turn around, and what if there's a little 4-year-old kid who accidentally pushed the cart and he just looks cute? Then you would be feel compassion, and you'd be apologetic for your anger, and it'd be a whole different situation, right? So reality is what it is. How does this apply to our ultra running experience? Well, there are lots of expectations going into a race. If you're like me, you plan things to the finest detail. You stress about it, you worry about it, you're excited about it, but you want things to be a certain way. When you get there, every race is different. Everything is unique. That race is the only race that you will ever have that will be just like that. And there will be surprises. So you just deal with reality. There's a beautiful sunset, it's incredible, it rains, you get sick, you get frustrated. Those are all just reality, they're just real experiences. So you just soak it in, you realize this is what's happening to me now, this is the reality. It doesn't do me any good to stress about how I'm reacting to it and to think about wishing it was something other than it is. When you're at mile 70 and puking, you can tell I have problems a lot of times at mile 70, especially with my gut. But when that's happening, you just accept it. Hey, this is real. This is happening right now. I'll feel better after I throw up, and you push forward. And that's just the magic of it. It's a great principle for life, but especially for ultra running, we have to take things as they come. There's always unknowns, and we just have to accept what is real and deal with it and move forward. And we can have joy in that. Even in a hard situation, we can say, hey, this is what's happening to me now. I can deal with it, and I wonder how I'm going to overcome this. Isn't that interesting to see that I got this shape right now in the game of Tetris, and I wonder how I'm going to be able to twist it to make it work. Principle number 4, embrace suffering. One of the key principles of secular Buddhism is that suffering exists. Life is hard, things happen. Most of the time in our Western minds, we try to avoid suffering, avoid bad feelings, avoid things that we think are bad, and it kind of crushes us when we run into them. Well, guess what? Life is bad experiences. We die, we get sick. All bad things happen eventually. So instead of being scared of that, we embrace it. We know that it's the case. We admit it. We're kind of facing reality, and we appreciate the moment that it's not happening right now. At least I have this moment, and I can make it as good as possible, even when the suffering comes. The analogy is if you're running through the forest and a guy in a bear costume jumps out and tackles you, that's a pretty traumatic experience. But if somebody the day before had said, hey, there's a guy running around in the forest in a bear costume tackling people, then you'd at least be kind of aware of it. And then when it happened, it would be traumatic still, but you would say, oh, there was the guy in the bear costume. So that's how we embrace suffering. Well, so how does that apply to ultra marathon running? Duh. We're gonna suffer. There's gonna be some hard times. You're gonna have a little bit of overuse injury. You're gonna have a nutrition problem. You're gonna have a sleep deprivation, whatever. There's going to be suffering. We embrace it, we accept that it is. Even when it's happening, we try to feel that emotion and feel it and think, wow, I've never puked at mile 13 before. Or whatever the case is, we embrace reality, accept it as it is. And when we're not suffering, we think, well, we know we're going to suffer at some point. Let's make the most of it right now of the good times, you know, at mile 37 when we're singing and having fun. So another little lesson for you. Principle number 5 is the double arrows, the parable of the 2 arrows. You know, for everything that happens to us, it's like we get hit by an arrow, especially if it's something bad, or we see it as bad. We get hit by an arrow, that's the thing that happens to us. And then there's a second arrow, and that's our reaction to it, or how we feel about it, the story we tell about what happened. And we can't really do anything about the first arrow hitting us. You know, you can't do anything about being sick at mile 60, or, you know, having your Achilles to flare up. At mile 24, devastating. But you can do something about the second arrow to mitigate the effects of that second arrow. It's often the second arrow that hurts more, because we create a big story about what happened to us and why it's unfair, and how mad we are, and maybe what that person did to make us mad, or why my poles broke at mile 22. And it's just, it doesn't make any sense. It's needless suffering. We're worrying about things that we don't need to worry about. We can focus on what is the first arrow. Okay, here's what happened, and now what am I going to do with it? Just like the playing Tetris instead of chess. Here's a shape that came down that's really weird. I got to try and twist it pretty quick and try to put it in my life. I don't have time to sit around and worry about why that shape came out, or, you know, the shape that I wanted compared to the shape that came down the screen. So that'll help you a lot. Don't let the second arrow, you know, cause more pain than the first arrow. It'll take practice. You have to work on it. Just have that little bit of separation between the thing that happens and your reaction to it. Lesson number 6 is show up with an empty cup. You know, the analogy goes that a man walked up the mountain to meet the sage, the wise man, because he wanted enlightenment. And he said, I've come here, you know, I've learned everything I can down in the village, but now I've come to you to get the last piece and get to enlightenment. And the wise man says, can we have a cup of tea first? And he says, yeah, sure. So they pour the tea, he pours the tea, and he just keeps pouring the tea on the other guy's cup, and until it overflows, spills all over the place. And the guy says, what are you doing? He said, well, you've already got a full cup here of knowledge, and so I can't put any knowledge, give you any new knowledge, because you have no room. So go back to the village and unlearn what you know, and then come back when you have an empty cup. So that's why we need to approach ultramarathon running. Even if you've done hundreds, you still have something to learn with each new experience, and you have to go into it with an open mind and don't think you know everything. You could learn something from the person that's at the caboose. You could learn something from the guy who takes first place, or from the middle of the pack people. Always have something to learn. Everyone can be your teacher, and you just have to have that perspective. One of the wise Buddhist teachers said, I try to unlearn something every day. So examine your own thoughts, your own beliefs, your own perspectives, and ask yourself, is this reality? Is this what's real? And if not, if what is real changes that thought or perception, then you change the thought and the perception to adjust to reality, instead of trying to get reality to fit your perspective. You know, you want to feel good at mile 36, and you have that in your mind. That's your goal. You're set on it. You're focused. You know, we're as long distance runners, we really lock in on our goals, and we have to push hard. We also have to be flexible in our thinking and our perspectives. so that when things happen, we face a different reality than we expected. We change the expectation instead of trying to change the reality. Because most suffering in life, most suffering in ultra marathon running, comes from expecting reality to be different than something other than what it is. And peace comes from accepting what is and changing our perception. Principle number 7 is be curious. So you got to look around, you got to see what's going on. You could also call this one pay attention. There's a parable of the guy getting chased by a tiger. He kind of jumps off this cliff and holds on to a vine. He looks down, there's another tiger down below, so he has no choice. He's kind of stuck, but he looks into the little cove where he's holding onto the branch, and he sees a strawberry. And he just thinks about how delicious the strawberry would be, how red it is, how beautiful. And he eats it, and it's delicious. And that's it. That's the end of the story. And did he survive? Did he jump down? Did he fight the tiger? We don't know, and it doesn't matter. He was able to be curious even in a tough situation. So you're gonna be in 100, maybe even a 50, where you're gonna hit the wall, you're gonna be struggling. But good, bad, or in between, you can always be curious. You can always find things. I call it treasure hunting. So when I ran the Tahoe 200, I had this epiphany on day 4 that I want to be a treasure hunter. I want to help people find the details in life. I was noticing those red flowers, the snow flowers, all along that course, and they just gave me inspiration. And then I ran into another guy, and he said, "What?" I told him about the flowers, you know, how they were inspirational to me, and he said, "What flowers?" So stay curious, like a little kid. Just look for the amazing things in life that are going to present themselves all the time. Even if you're sick, even if you're having trouble, even in the greatest tragedy, there's still joy and beauty in the world. And this is kind of a testament to that. This beautiful scene here on this Jamaican beach where I happen to be today to work on a roof for hurricane recovery. It's a great life. I was car sick last night, driving so it felt like an 11-hour drive. It was only 3 hours winding through these windy roads, and just felt terrible, miserable. I still look for the good things. I was able to sit on a bench at a gas station and just catch my breath, and it was wonderful. You can do it. You can find the little treasures in life. Stay curious. Look out for those little surprises in life. You got to pay attention, because if you're thinking ahead or thinking back in the past, you're worried about things, you're distracted, and you're not in the moment. If you can be in the moment, look for the good things, you will find them, but you got to be looking. Speaking of staying curious, I was running along, looking off to my left, looking down on my run, and I looked up and saw a full rainbow right over my head, and I might have missed it. How great is that? And at the very same time, in all directions, some cool flowers. Stay curious. Okay, friends, tip number 8 is live in gratitude. You've heard the phrase, have an attitude of gratitude. Well, this concept of living in gratitude really means a lot for the rest of your life, but also especially for ultra running. You got to have gratitude for that grape or that ice cube, that popsicle at an aid station, your poles, a pacer, a friend, somebody to run with, a little encouraging word, just all those little things especially when you're doing a 100-miler or above or longer. Just have so much gratitude for those things. And we need to live life that way and live our race that way. Appreciate those good things. There's going to be some rough things. You know that. Appreciate the blessings. A little cup of pickle juice. Just, that person at the aid station who really cares about you and asks you how you're doing. It's just a blessing. Buddhism would say that we don't pursue happiness. We just try to live life and take it as it is and accept reality. And by doing so, we can come to a state of enlightenment by just truly being present. That leads to happiness or freedom, which also leads to gratitude. We don't force ourselves to be grateful, but we force ourselves to be happy. but we live looking for those little things that bring us joy and that we can appreciate. And those things lead to living in the moment, enlightenment, all those good things. So my second Blood Rock is a race that at this time had 27,000 vertical feet approximately. So that's like on Mount Everest in Birmingham, Alabama, go figure. But it was my second Blood Rock. I had been puking, really struggling. My headlamp was dying and the sun was just trying to come up. I just saw that little glow of light and I was so grateful for the warmth and the vision that was gonna give me. I got up to the top of this climb as the sun was trying to come up, a point called King's Chair, where you just have this overlook, which is not very common in Alabama, but there are some. So I'm looking out over the overlook of King's Chair and that sun just popped up, that beautiful ball of orange. I was filled with gratitude and I realized all of my little epiphanies during my ultra runs, they really revolve around gratitude. Doing something hard makes me appreciate the rest of my life and all of my blessings. And I live a pretty cushy life. You know, ice comes out of my fridge. I kind of feel bad about that. I know that most of the world is kind of suffering and going through a grind. And it's tough all over in many different circumstances, but especially around the world, around the earth. I know that I live a pretty cushy life. And so ultra running helps me, kind of brings me to my knees sometimes. It helps me to be grateful. Just like that little strawberry with the tiger above you and tiger below, you can still appreciate that strawberry. I have been truly, truly blessed by an ice cube or one grape between mile 80 and 100 in a 100-mile ultra marathon. It's just really blessed my life and made me happy. So do it, have an attitude of gratitude. It takes a little bit of effort, but once you get into that mindset, then it will become second nature and it will bless your life. To be appreciative of your blessings will be a blessing. Number 9, it's about the journey, not the finish. So we know in ultra marathon running, we always want to finish, and then it's just always the ultimate goal, finish under cutoff, get the buckle. It's important. We set that goal, we strive for it, but we have to appreciate the journey or it's worthless. If you died on the day you got your diploma, would your education have been worthless? Some of us would probably say yes. But if so, that's a shame. Like, we should get something out of the process, right? Not only should we get something out of that, that should be the goal, is to appreciate the journey. It goes back to the carpe diem, live in the moment, live in the now. But if I don't appreciate it along the way, what good is it going to be to just finally get to the finish? And you know that lots of times that finish is a little anticlimactic, or the buckle is weird, or you lost your buckle, whatever, the bragging rights. None of that matters, but it's the journey. If you think about it, in a 100-mile race, a 100-mile ultra, you're going to be out there for 22 hours, 30 hours, sometimes 36 hours. One time I was 41 hours. Blood Rock, give me a break. But you're going to be out there for a long time. And you know how long you're going to be crossing the finish line? For about 1.5 seconds. I had an amazing experience at Tahoe. Just crashed really hard at mile 100. Thought I was done. I tried to not quit before the miracle. Woke up the next morning. I got some sleep, and I woke up at 5, and they pushed me out. My crew pushed me back out on the trail. And then I knew I was going to finish from then on. So I had 100 miles to go in a 200-mile race. I had 2 days to do it in. And I just enjoyed those 2 days. At one point I thought, I don't even care if I finish this race, because I've got my reward from the experience. That's what we should do with our running. That's what we should do with our life. Enjoy. Tip number 10, my friends, is let go. You've got to get rid of this attachment to impermanent things. You've got to get rid of your attachment to your running vest, to your crew, to your aid stations, to your pace goal. You hold on loosely. So you can work with those things, you can appreciate those things, but know that the race is going to be over. it's going to be over tomorrow maybe, or the next day, and life moves on. So you don't need to attach yourselves to things that are impermanent. This goes with all of life, right? Everything is constantly changing. You're a different person now than you were when you started this video. And we're constantly changing. It's okay. That is life. Life is change. But that also means if we attach ourselves to things, especially, but also to people, then when those people go away, we move away from them, or somebody passes on, or we lose that truck or that house or that car or that job, then we're devastated. Instead, we should be able to hold on loosely to those things, to love deeply and care and enjoy the things that are in our lives, but we don't attach ourselves to them. We have a degree of separation where we know that we'll be okay when that truck goes away, or that car, or that computer, or phone, or whatever we are unintentionally attaching ourselves to. You got to do it in ultra running. You just got to let go. You're not going to be able to fast forward to mile 76. You can't jump time warp wormhole to mile 98. And remember, those last 2 miles are going to feel like 25 miles. But you just got to let go and just be present. I hope this video has been helpful. I hope that if you're an ultra runner, that you'll give this a chance to think about secular Buddhism, applying these principles, even if you don't call it secular Buddhism. Like, you don't have to use any of these principles to become Buddhist. That's just not a thing. That's not the goal. The goal is just to help you be a better whatever you already are. And hopefully that's an ultra runner. If you're not an ultra runner, I hope you become one. We learn so much about ourselves and about life from running farther than we have before. It's a wonderful, fabulous thing. It's fulfilling. It brings me a lot of comfort and peace and enjoyment. And as I've applied these principles of Buddhism, I have enjoyed my running even more, and I've become more capable, better at strategizing, better at letting go, better at living in the moment and enjoying the journey instead of struggling to get to that finish and fighting against it. So hope it's helpful for you. We'll see you next time.